Hello, this is Grant Strum with BASF Innovations in the Field, coming to you from my front porch. It is Tuesday, August 4th, about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm going to give you a little bit of a update on how our crops have been doing here so far in the growing season of 2015, and what things we're seeing in the fields that we've done, or some of the management items we've done that appear to be successful, and maybe some things that haven't been quite as successful. So starting with the general crop update, overall our crops in the last 2 or 3 weeks have improved pretty dramatically. Corn has looked pretty solid most of the way, especially with earlier planted corn. Soybeans really went through a period of struggle, especially through the month of June and through the first week of July or so. A lot of stunted yellow soybeans did not grow with all the wet weather we had. I hate to even guess how much rain we had in the month of June, but it ended up being a record for the state of Illinois for rainfall, and we were really no different in our area. Overall, I'd rate our corn crop good to very good, with several areas of excellent corn. Soybeans, 3 weeks ago I'd rated them fair to poor with a few good fields. This week I'd tell you they're more fair to good with a few excellent fields. And that's just kind of the change we've seen with the warm weather. But some of the top things that we've seen that have really affected, starting with the corn, that's really going to affect yield in our area this year. The first one we start with would be obviously the amount of water we've had. If you have a farm that's maybe missed some of the heaviest rains, you're a lot better off. If you have ground with some roll or good drainage, obviously there's going to be some significant yield differences there. As we've dried it out, we've even had some complaints. We've had a little bit of rain in the last week to 10 days in our immediate area, but just outside of our area there's been actually some lack of rainfall, and so now the complaints are starting to head the other way with being a little bit dry, especially with the poor root development that we have. Plant date's one thing that's really, I feel, going to affect some of the corn yields this year. For the most part, the corn was planted in a pretty tight window. But the earlier planted corn definitely tends to have taken the water quite a bit better than the later planted corn. We finished up corn like May 12th and 13th, and that corn had a little bit of a struggle there. Definitely going to lose a little yield from the June weather issues we had. But that corn has turned around quite a bit and is going to be better yielding than we anticipated, but it's still not going to quite equal what that early planted corn was, and mostly due to the rain. Most of our corn is in the dough stage at this point. We have some corn that's just blistered, some of that late corn. But pollination, for the most part, appears to have went well. You'll find a few scattered areas where there was some missed kernels in pollination, but for the most part, we're very happy with how pollination went. Nitrogen management was really a big issue this year. One of my last videos, I showed you the 360 Y drops we're planning on using. Well, all I can say was we planned on using them and did not use them. That video was shot about the second week of June, and we had nothing but rain clear through the 4th of July at that point. 4th of July weekend, we finally got back in to start spraying our soybeans, and with all the soybeans we had to spray, we did not have the opportunity to put the Y drops on. We just finished the soybeans and it started raining again the next day, and so unfortunately the Y drops did not get used, so we actually made the decision to start using aerial applications of urea to get on the corn. And so our planned nitrogen pass with the Y drop was done by airplane in the form of urea instead. The big talk here of late has been disease. Corn disease has been rampant in our area. Certain varieties, northern corn leaf blight has been just atrocious. If you did not spray certain varieties, you're not going to have much of a crop. You can find northern corn leaf blight in practically every field. But some varieties are very strong against it, and some varieties you can tell are very susceptible. Generally, we are very big advocates of fungicide. We've had very good luck with the BASF Headline Ant product, and with pretty much every acre we can get an airplane on, we did spray this year. And it's going out in those fields now, the lower part of the canopy is just riddled with disease, and the fungicide is doing its job in the top part of the leaves. Top leaves in the plant are staying very healthy, but gray leaf spot, northern corn leaf blight, very big stories in our area and much of the upper Midwest from what I've heard. Moving on to soybeans, again, obviously the factors that are affecting the soybean yield the most at this point was plant date and stand establishment. The earlier planted soybeans handled the water to a much greater degree than the later planted soybeans. We had, unfortunately, a lot of late planted soybeans, as I mentioned before, with the planter breakdown. And so the later planted soybeans really had a tough go, had a tough time establishing stand in a lot of areas. And in those wet areas where we did establish stand, the beans are very short and stunted. You go out and look at those beans though, and there's actually a lot of nodes stacked in on those bean plants, so it's going to be interesting to see really how well those beans yield with the reduced stand and the stunted growth like that. But driving by them now, the color is very good. They're very dark green, so hopefully will turn out okay, maybe a little better than expected on a lot of the yield. The big story has been weed pressure in soybeans. With the late spring of soybeans this year, due to all the wet weather, a lot of the water hemp in our area got off label. Simply, when water hemp gets to about 6 inches, there's not much that's really going to get it. We had several fields we thought were clean. We even used 2X Roundup on those fields. And here in the last 2 or 3 weeks, we've had water hemp breaking through. And that's not just the case on our farm, it's been the case on a lot of farms. The residuals did help a lot. Any fields that don't have residual are worse. And so the residual is doing its job. It's just those escapes, it was really a tough time trying to kill those escapes this year. And I went back with some burners, a Cobra or Phoenix or Flexstar type product. Did clean some of those fields up, but even in some situations, those fields are still pretty dirty even after that application. Disease is starting to become a bigger issue in soybeans now. For the first time here the last couple days, I've been driving by a lot of fields. I'm starting to see sudden death show up. I started hearing reports of sudden death as early as mid last week, which was July, and that's very alarming when you start hearing sudden death issues in the month of July in our area. Usually it's like an August 15th or later type disease that'll start showing up in the upper canopy. I have not seen any in our fields yet. I know we've got sudden death in some of our fields, but it's still in the lower canopy at this point. But driving by a lot of fields here recently, you're starting to see it in the upper canopy, which is pretty alarming. We have some cooler, possibly wetter weather coming in, so I'm afraid that disease is going to start exemplifying itself and become a bigger problem. So that's some of the things we're seeing in the fields right now overall. Again, our corn, mostly good to excellent. Soybeans fair to good with a few excellent fields in between there. Obviously soybeans will rely on the month of August here and see if we can get some timely rains to finish them off. But overall, I feel pretty decent about our crop. There's a lot of areas in the state of Illinois that are not so well off, so really it's very area specific on where the good crops are this year. Hopefully you're in one of those areas. But until next time, I'm Grant Strum signing off. Thank you.